Chapter 25. Amaziah was 20 and 5 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 20 and 9 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jehoaddan of Jerusalem. And he did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord, but not with the whole heart. Now it came to pass, when the kingdom was established unto him, that he slew his servants, who had killed the king his father. But he put not their children to death, but did according to that which was written in the law, in the book of Moses, as the Lord commanded, saying, The fathers shall not die for the children, neither shall the children die for the fathers, but every man shall die for his own sin. Moreover, Amaziah gathered Judah together, and ordered them according to their fathers' houses, under captains of thousands and captains of hundreds, even all Judah and Benjamin. And he numbered them from 20 years old and upward, and found them 300,000 chosen men, able to go forth to war, that could handle spear and shield. He hired also 100,000 mighty men of valor out of Israel for 100 talents of silver. But there came a man of God to him, saying, O king, let not the army of Israel go with you, for the Lord is not with Israel, even with all the children of Ephraim. But if you will go and do engage never so valiantly in battle, God will cast you down before the enemy, for God hath power to help and to cast down. And Amaziah said to the man of God, But what shall we do for the 100 talents which I have given to the army of Israel? And the man of God answered, The Lord is able to give you much more than this. Then Amaziah separated them, to wit, the army that was come to him out of Ephraim, to go back home, wherefore their anger was greatly kindled against Judah, and they returned home in fierce anger. And Amaziah took courage, and led forth his people, and went to the valley of Salt, and smote of the children of Seir 10,000. And other 10,000 did the children of Judah carry away alive, and brought them up to the top of the rock, and cast them down from the top of the rock, that they all were broken in pieces. But the men of the army whom Amaziah sent back, that should not go with him to battle, fell upon the cities of Judah, from Samaria even to Bethchoran, and smote of them 3,000, and took much spoil. Now it came to pass, after that Amaziah, who was come from the slaughter of the Edomites, that he brought the gods of the children of Seir, and set them up to be his gods, and prostrated himself before them, and offered unto them. Wherefore the anger of the Lord was kindled against Amaziah. And he sent unto him a prophet, who said unto him, Why have you sought after the gods of the people, which have not delivered their own people out of your hand? And it came to pass, as he talked with him, that the king said unto him, Have we made you of the king's counsel? For better, why shouldest you be smitten? Then the prophet forbore, and said, I know that God hath determined to destroy you, because you have done this, and have not hearkened unto my counsel. Then Amaziah the king of Judah took advice, and sent to Joash the son of Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu, king of Israel, saying, Come, let us look one another in the face. And Joash, king of Israel, sent to Amaziah king of Judah, saying, The thistle that was in Lebanon sent to the cedar that was in Lebanon, saying, Give your daughter to my son to wife. And there passed by the wild beasts that were in Lebanon, and trod down the thistle. You sayest, Lo, you have smitten Edom. Will your heart therefore lift you up to glory therein? Abide now at home. Why shouldest you meddle with evil, that you shouldest fall, even you, and Judah with you? But Amaziah would not hear, for it was of God, that he might deliver them into the hand of their enemies, because they had sought after the gods of Edom. So Joash, king of Israel, went up. He and Amaziah, king of Judah, looked one another in the face at Bethshemesh, which belonged to Judah. And Judah was put to the worse before Israel, and they fled every man to his tent. And Joash, king of Israel, took Amaziah king of Judah, the son of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, at Bethshemesh, and brought him to Jerusalem, and broke down the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim unto the corner gate, 400 cubits. And he took all the gold and silver, and all the vessels that were found in the house of God with Obed-Edom, and the treasures of the king's house, the hostages also, and returned to Samaria. And Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah, lived after the death of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, king of Israel, 15 years. Now the rest of the acts of Amaziah, first and last, behold, are they not written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel? Now from the time that Amaziah did turn away from following the Lord, they made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But they sent after him to Lachish, and slew him there. And they brought him upon horses, and buried him with his fathers in the city of Judah. All right, let's go back up to verse 1. And yesterday we was reading of Jehoiada, or Joash. He was 7 years old, and he began to reign, and he was the one who they slayed Athaliah, and they set him back up. And it was because the Athaliah, of course, she had reintroduced Balaam in all the land, but they had reestablished God's house. They had brought forth the offerings from the people, and they had rebuilt God's house, and they had reestablished it to its prior state as just like it was. But now we'll find that Joash slew Zechariah, and he was the son of Jehoiada, who had took Joashim when he was a child and hid him away from Athaliah. And he didn't have no regard for what kindness that Jehoiada and his sons had shown him while he was there. And they would bury him there. He would also be buried in the city of David. But they didn't bury him in the graves of the kings. They did bury Jehoiada there as well. We'll find out that after this, that they would conspire against Joash, his two servants would, and they would kill him there. And his son would reign in his stead, and his son's name would be Amaziah. And that's where we're picking it up in verse 1. Amaziah was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jehoaddan of Jerusalem. And Amaziah, this great might of God, this mightiness of God, because once again, God's going to show his mightiness and his greatness. He's using it as a witness. Was 25 years old when he begins to reign. And 25 years old is that witness of the law. And we have witnessed the law, see, and God working in the law with the kings whom he established. And that's redemption. And 5 years old, at even that grace of greater understandings of old. And he reigns for 29 years in Jerusalem, and 29 years will be his reign. 20 because we will be able to witness the law again. And 9 years, the 9 is a harvest even in the law, in the greater understandings in Jerusalem, even that place of peaceful teachings. We'll find out his mother's name, or that would be the understanding of his father, and he would come forth from Jehoaddan. Jehoaddan is the delight. Adon is to delight oneself, or to take pleasure in something that we do. And it's God who is delighting himself here, even in that place of peaceful teachings, because God's making an example, and God's doing it for a greater understanding too. And he did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord, but not with a whole heart. And that's the way his fathers had been before him. He had done right, but not with a whole heart. They began in righteousness, but they turned. 3. Now it came to pass, when the kingdom was established unto him, that he slew his servants who had killed the king his father. After he had been established as the king, he has those that were slain. That was Zabad and Jehoshaphat. They were the ones who plotted against his father, and he had them slain for it. But he put not their children to death, but did according to that which is written in the law in the book of Moses, as the Lord commanded, saying, the fathers shall not die for the children, neither shall the children die for the fathers, but every man shall die for his own sin. And this is just the way it is. We're not responsible for because of the evil somebody else does, and nobody is responsible for the evil that we do, because it's our own sin that and our own choice that has brought us to it. God, see, has a way of teaching, and what he's trying to tell Amaziah is, just because your fathers have turned from me, don't mean that you have to, because I'll not punish you either. Amaziah punishing those that killed his father. 5. Moreover, Amaziah gathered Judah together and ordered them according to their fathers' houses under captains of thousands and captains of hundreds, even all Judah and Benjamin. And he numbered them from 20 years old and upward, and found them 300,000 chosen men, able to go forth to war, that can handle the spear and shield. Moreover, this is a whole other subject, the Amaziah gathers Judah together, and he orders them according to their fathers' houses, according to the tribes, even Judah, and these fathers over those hundreds and thousands. These were the captains or the rulers, heads of their fathers' houses, over the fulfillments and the judgments. All Judah and Benjamin, and Judah is praisings, and Benjamin is the son of my strength, or the son of my right hand. And he numbered them from 20 years old and upward. And he numbers them so we can witness the law in the greater understandings even of old. God said this wasn't what they should do, but that's what the king's doing, because he gathered him up an army. And he numbered them from 20 years old and upward, and he found 300,000 chosen men. And from there he found these 300,000 chosen men, and 3, because it's going to be to complete 100 the judgments, and 1,000 the fulfillments of it. These men are able to go forth to war. They can handle spear and shield, and they could cast things forth from the hand. That's what the spear was, that which could be cast forth from our works even, and the shield, even that, the covenant, or the ability to protect yourself with it. 6, and he hired also 100,000 mighty men of valor out of Israel for 100 talents of silver. And besides these of Judah and Benjamin, he hires also out of Israel, out of the other nations that God was making an example out of, for 100 talents of silver. And that's for the judgments being weighed out. Even for the silver, that represents that generation that's going to be caused to pass through the fire, or that judgments of God to be purified. 7, but there came a man of God to him, saying, O king, let not the army of Israel go with you, for the Lord is not with Israel, even all the children of Ephraim. And there came a man of God to him, because God always sends his prophets, and has before and often, saying, O king, let not the army of Israel go with you, for the Lord ain't with them. Even these children of Ephraim, these children of the fruitful, or the double-fruited, I refer to them as the double-fruited, God ain't with them. They've been serving the Baalim for years. They've been serving their alternative altars for years. 8, but if you will go and do engage never so valiantly in battle, God will cast you down before the enemy. For God hath power to help and cast down. And we've just learned that in the previous several chapters. And the prophet's telling him, if you do go, though, and you engage, I don't care how valiant you are in the battle, God will cast you down before your enemy, see? Because God has the power to help. God has the power to support. God has the power to cast down. God sets it up. God casts it down. 9, and Amaziah said to the man of God, but what shall we do for the 100 talents, which I have given to the army of Israel? And the man of God answered, the Lord is able to give you much more than this. And Amaziah, he's concerned about the money. He wants to know what about all the money I give him. this 100 talents, this judgment that's weighed out, which I've given to the army of Israel, and man of God, it says God's able to give you back, and God, because that's where they got it all from anyway. It all belonged to God, even from the beginning. 10. Then Amaziah separated them to wit, the army that was come to him out of Ephraim, to go back home. Wherefore the anger was greatly kindled against Judah, and they returned home in fierce anger. So Amaziah separates out this army of Ephraim, tells them go back home. And these are the double fruited, and it makes them mad, and it makes them greatly mad, and we'll find out what they do as they go back home. 11. And Amaziah took courage and led forth his people, and went to the valley of Salt, and smote the children of Seir, 10,000. And Amaziah, he goes ahead and girds up and takes himself on down, him and all his mighty men, and they went down to the valley of Salt. That valley of Salt, that low place, and that always refers to the nether part of the land. And the salt, that is that which, salt is a purifier, salt is a healer, salt is a seasoning even, and it is something of great value, and especially at that time. And he smote there the children of Seir. And Seir is that, represents that Mount Seir, that high place even, that place of thorns. It represents those thorn bushes even they left into the land a long time ago. Seir was given to Esau and his children, these 10,000, because it's the law and the fulfillment overall. 12. And the other 10,000 did the children of Judah carry away alive, and brought them unto the top of the rock, and cast them down from the top of the rock, that they were all broken in pieces. And besides these 10,000 they slew there in the valley of Salt, they took another 10,000 and took them alive, and brought them to the top of the rock. And that rock is Salah. Salah is that place. It's that place. It's a lofty place, a high place of cliffs. They take them up there, and they cast them off that lofty place, because, see, we'll find out, it's all part of an example. God has the ability to cast down. God has the ability to deliver. But the men of the army whom Amaziah sent back, that they should not go with him to battle, fell upon the cities of Judah, from Samaria even unto Beth Koran, and smote of them 3,000, and took much spoil. But these men of the army whom Amaziah had sent back, whom this might, we'll see the might of God here, sends back, they fell upon the cities of Judah. On their way back, they was greatly angry, so they decided to take them a few cities out as they went, and they fell upon Samaria. That's that place of dregs, even unto Beth Koran. And Beth Koran is that house of the holes. And we know what the house of the holes, or this house where they hide, these hiding places, in these holes where the light shines in. And he smote of them 3,000, and took much spoil, because it is to complete the fulfillment. And we'll find out it's all part of the judgment of God. See, God judges both of them. 14. Now it came to pass, after that Amaziah was come from the slaughter of the Edomites, that he brought the gods of the children of Seir, and set them up to be as gods, and prostrated himself before them, and offered unto them. Now after all this, after that Amaziah was come from the slaughter of the Edomites, after he had been down there slaughtering them, these that show the blood, they show the blood in the flesh, that he brought their gods, these not gods, that God had given them to rule over them. See, because they too as well was in error, these children of Seir. And he brought their not gods and set them up now to be his not God. Because see, he has no understanding. He doesn't understand who God is. He doesn't understand how God works. And he prostrates himself before these hunks of wood, or these hunks of stones, or these understandings of men even. 15. Wherefore the anger of the Lord was kindled against Amaziah, and he sent unto him a prophet, who said unto him, Why have you sought after the gods of the people, which have not delivered their own people out of your hand? And God was angry, because this is one thing God said you shall not do. It's right there, number 2. You shall not make yourself an idol. You shall not make yourself an image. You shall not make yourself anything of heaven or earth, male or female. God don't want you raising up something and bowing down to it. See, he's God, and he's the only one there is. And you never did see an image, not from the beginning. These gods, these not gods here, they couldn't deliver these people. And you going to raise them up? That's what the prophet's telling him. And it came to pass, as he talked with him, that the king said unto him, Have we made you of the king's counsel? Forbear, why shouldest you be smitten? Then the prophet forbore, and said, I know that God hath determined to destroy you, because you have done this, and have not hearkened unto my counsel. And it comes to pass, while the prophet's standing there telling him, admonishing him, so to speak, that God, that the king says, shut up. That's what forbear is. Shut up. Have somebody made you over the king's counsel? Or are you one of my counselors? Why should I smite you? Why should I kill you? And the prophet shut up, and he said, I know that God is determined to destroy you. See, God is determined to destroy him because he has utterly rejected the understanding that comes from God. 17. Then Amaziah, king of Judah, took advice and sent to Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu, king of Israel, saying, Come, let us look one another in the face. And we're kind of changing subjects again here with Amaziah now. He's king of Judah. He takes advice. He takes advice from his counselors, these other counselors, all these ones that basically counsel him and tell him to ignore the word of God and ignore the understanding of the law of God. And he sends over to Joash those that God's consuming. This is not his father. He's the son of Jehoahaz, who's the son of Jehu. And remember, Jehoahaz, these ones that God had seized. God has taken hold of. He's the one that come forth from Jehu, God himself. He's the king of Israel, saying, Come, let us look one another in the face. And we'll find out this is really just a challenge to war. 18. And Joash, king of Israel, sent to Amaziah, the king of Judah, saying, The thistle that was in Lebanon sent to the cedar that was in Lebanon, saying, Give your daughter to my son to wife. And there passed by the wild beasts that were in Lebanon, and trod down the thistle. And this thistle is a thorn bush. It's this thorn bush. Lebanon's that place that's white. It means white, to be white, or be whitened. Sent to cedar. Sent to the cedar, and the cedar's that thing which is established for like something eternal. Something that's established for an everlasting thing, so to speak. That said, this thorn bush tells to the cedar, Give your daughter to my son to wife. And this one who goes forth with the understanding of her mother, says, Give to my son that your daughter for my son, that which will come forth from me, to be my wife, or to be the wife. And there passed by these wild beasts. These wild beasts are those, we'll find out, to destroy. They're destructive. They trample down the thistle. They trample down this thorn bush. 19, because we'll find out it represents Israel's established as this, so to speak, this example that God established of the negative. 19, you sayest, Lo, you have smitten Edom, Will your heart therefore lift you up to glory therein? Abide now at home. Why shouldest you meddle with evil, that you shouldest fall, even you and Judah with you? So now Joash, he's the son of Jehoahaz, tells him, better stay at home. Why? Just because you've whooped Edom, just because you've smitten Edom, those that show the blood in the flesh, don't mean that you can lift yourself up and think you can come up here and do the same to us. Why meddle you with evil and be slain, and Judah with you? 20. But Amaziah would not hear, for it was of God, that he might deliver them into the hand of their enemies, because they had sought after the gods of Edom. But Amaziah, he won't listen. See, God's plugged up that ear so he can't hear nothing. He won't listen. All he can hear is the words of the evil counselors. For it's of God. See, God did that he might deliver them into the hand of the works of their enemies. Because they had sought after the gods of Edom, or after these not gods, that God gives the rule over Edom, those that show the blood and the flesh. God did that because they turned from God as well. 21. So Joash, king of Israel, went up. He and Amaziah, king of Judah, looked one another in the face at Bethshemesh, which belongs to Judah. So Joash, he's the king of Israel, and those that God consumed, he's the king of all those that contend with the mighty one. He goes on up, he and Amaziah, the king of Judah. Amaziah is those great strengths, the mights, these abilities that God's showing. He's the king of Judah, those are praisings. Looked one another in the face at Bethshemesh, which belongs to Judah. And Bethshemesh is that house of their, not a god, their sun image. And that sun image is something they set up there to show the eternity, all that life-giving power and the great light and understanding that come from that image they had set up there, which God had given them to rule over them. They had this there, even in Judah. That's that place of praisings. See, and they had set that up there because they had done great wickedness, and these high places hadn't been destroyed out of the land. And Judah, 22, was put to the worst before Israel, and they fled every man to his tent. And Judah, because of their goings astray, chasing after these not gods, was put to the worst before Israel, and they fled every man to his tent. And everybody takes it back to the house. They don't go reassemble somewhere. They take it back to the tent. 23. And Joash, king of Israel, took Amaziah, king of Judah, the son of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, at Bethshemesh, and brought him to Jerusalem, and broke down the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim unto the corner gate, 400 cubits. And Joash, king of Israel, took Amaziah, who's the king of Judah. See, Joash, those that God is consumed, he takes Amaziah, these great strengths that God's showing over the king of Judah. He's the son of Joash. Now, the son of Jehoahaz, Joash, he's the king of Israel, meets him there. Jehoahaz are those that God seized at Bethshemesh, and that's that house of that image, that sun image they had made there. And he brought them to Jerusalem, that place of peaceful teachings, and he breaks down the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim unto the corner gate, 400 cubits. And he breaks down this wall, those things that separate, that's that place, the separation in the place of peaceful teachings. He breaks it down from the gate of Ephraim, gate, that's where they gather for judgments of Ephraim, those of the double-fruited, all the way to the corner gate. And that corner is a place where they turn. See, that's the turning place in the wall, and that's what it represents, that place where they turn, that gate of judgment there, 400 cubits, because why? 4, that's the work of God. 100 in judgments, being measured out. 24, and he took all the gold and silver and all the vessels that were found in the house of God with Obed-Edom, and the treasures of the king's house, the hostages also, and returned to Samaria. And Joash, he takes all the gold and silver. That's which belongs to God, and all that silver, that represented all the last judgment that God had brought upon Jerusalem. That generation that had passed through the judgments, see, and had to be gathered, regathered back up. And all the vessels that were found in the house of God, with Obed-Edom in the house of God, in the temple there, with Obed-Edom. Obed, that's a servant. Edom, those that show the blood in the flesh, no red. And the treasures of the king's house, the hostages also, and they returned there to the place of dregs. 25. And Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah, lived after the death of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, king of Israel, 15 years. And Amaziah, that's that might and abilities of God, the great strength of God he just showed. He come forth from Joash, those that God had consumed, the king of Judah. And that's those are praisings. And he lives after the death, or even after Joash, those that God had consumed, who come forth from Jehoahaz. He was the king of Israel, those that God had seized. 15 years, because, see, there's law is the grace. 10 and 5, that's the law, is grace, see, in the greater understandings, because God, once again, well, see, he's always going to make another example. God's going to make another example. Now the rest of the acts of Amaziah, first and last, behold, are they not written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel? And yes, they are. And all the rest of the acts of Amaziah, all the great strengths of God, first and last, from the beginning to the end. Behold, we can go look and read and witness them there. They're written there. They're there so that they can last, and we can read them there in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. 27. Now from the time that Amaziah did turn away from following the Lord, they made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. They sent after him to Lachish and slew him there. So Amaziah, of course, Joash is dead. He gets away somehow, and he runs off to Lachish to hide because there was a conspiracy. See, they done planned to kill Amaziah when he come back to Jerusalem for his wickedness. And they heard he was in Lachish. They sent him people over there to Lachish to slay him. And Lachish is that place of invincibility. See, Amaziah thought he could go hide in that place of invincibility, but we'll find out he was unable to hide there. They slew him there, 28, and they brought him upon horses and buried him with his fathers in the city of Judah. And they bring him back on horses, throw it over the saddle on these great strengths, and they bring him back to the city of his fathers, where they are burying the rest of the kings there in Judah, and that's that place of praisings. And we're going to pick it up, see, in chapter 26. Turn and return.